Hi, everybody. This is Professor D, and I want to talk a little bit about learning activities. So learning activities are anything that we put together that helps students understand the content and leads towards those learning objectives. So I was taught, I had great, colleagues that helped me frame how I think about learning. And one of the core concepts is this idea of alignment. Okay, so alignment is, what are the learning objectives? What is it that you're trying to achieve within the course or a module slash week? And you're going to provide them with content, the students, so you're going to provide them with a variety of content, which I've addressed in another video. And from that content, you're going to build learning activities that bring it home. Okay, so the idea of bringing it home is that you may give the students information about different types of marketing, but what is it that brings it home for them? What is an activity that you can design which helps them better understand the content? Now, that could be a paper, right? Very traditional. We're in a face-to-face class. Here's a paper. It could be a project. You're going to work with your classmates, and you're going to work on this project, and it's going to help reinforce the 4 P's of marketing. Great. It could be a discussion board. Again, I'm jumping around in terms of modality because ultimately, this is a new age. Online isn't going anywhere. And we have to think differently about how we bring things home. And we don't know, especially now, semester to semester, year to year, we don't know how we're going to be teaching. But I'm of the opinion that we're always going to have an online component going forward. It's just the way that it is. So that being said, you can put together a discussion board using a LMS such as Canvas, Blackboard, etc. that illustrates, that brings together the topical area that the students are discussing. Okay, so you can construct a discussion board, and discussion boards are awesome in my opinion because you can, as one of my colleagues said, you can bend it to your will. Actually, I said that, he just loves it. I always say that, with Canvas, I can always bend Canvas to do what I need it to do. I could always bend Blackboard to have it do what I need it to do. So when it comes to the learning activity, you can do a number of things. The only limitation that you have is your creativity. And if you're not that creative, just talk to your colleagues, talk to people that are out there in your professional associations that are teaching the same topic that you are, and ask, what are you doing to get this across? What is the activity that works for you? And so thinking of the tools that you have, thinking of the options that you have, build an activity that specifically addresses the content and specifically addresses the learning objective that you've stated for that week. And that'll help you. One of the hardest parts, in everything that's going on is that everybody's looking at how we teach a lot more closely. We used to, and this is a broad generalization, but teachers were for the most part left alone. Now, if you're in PK through 12, you're never left alone. I feel for my colleagues in PK through 12 because they have so many bosses and everybody's always, checking in on them. But in higher education, very often you get maybe one observation per semester at most, many cases one a year maybe. And that's one class time where you can do all the best things. But for the most part, you're left to your own devices. You're left to do what you do normally. Now, everybody's paying attention. And we're very, very concerned because of the student feedback. We want to make sure that the students are getting the best possible experience because they're not having a great time. Anyway, so when we talk about learning activities, we have to do better. We can't just recycle the learning activities that we've always done. Just because it worked in a face-to-face course doesn't mean it's going to work in an online course. And very often, teachers use activities that they like, not because they're effective, but because we like them. And we have to take a step back and say, okay, here's this learning activity. Here are my learning objectives. Does it fit? Does it work? And if it doesn't, I'm sorry, but you probably need to put that learning activity to rest. Now, most of the time, I think it works. I think it probably will work. And actually, it may not work for this particular course, but maybe it works for another course, for instance. And so you have to find some balance, or you just need to rework it. And I'm going to use a weird analogy. So I'm at my foundation, I'm a hospitality and tourism professor. Okay, I love that world. There are things that we talk about in terms of menu design, and there's this whole conversation that we have in certain classes, and we are redundant with this, that there is a better approach to menu engineering so that your menu is as good as it can be, so that you have the best possible dishes on your menu at all times. And we use this categorization of star, dog, puzzle, and workhorse, these 4 components. And you may recognize those terms because it's borrowed in other areas as well. But the idea is that you want all stars, and you don't want dishes that don't make sense, dishes that are not the right portion size, that don't have the right cost or profit margin, that have a weird name and nobody buys it as a result. So I use that in a way to think about our learning activities. We can tweak our learning activities to be appropriate to connect with our learning objectives. And so think of the activities that you have: papers, projects, presentations, discussions, etc., and take a hard look at how they're constructed. Think back, and you may have very recent information, feedback from your students to know whether or not they work, okay? And again, like I said, use your colleagues, put things in front of people. If you have individuals around you in your family, or you have students that you can reach out to that you're comfortable, engaging to have the conversation, ask them what they think about the learning activity. My colleagues that have kids that are college age and they're college professors, I say, put it in front of your daughter, put it in front of your son, because that's a great way to get some feedback. Now, it's not going to be perfect, and nothing ever is, but at least you can figure out whether or not it matches what you're trying to do, so that you can, get to that alignment. And then one last thing about learning activities. Don't just give students busy work. Strive for authenticity. Strive to create learning activities that replicate what actually happens in the industry. A lot of what we have traditionally given students is busy work. It's stuff that doesn't matter. It's stuff that really isn't going to give them what they need to excel once they graduate and go into the workforce. And so we need to be mindful of how we construct learning activities, because there's an opportunity to have them do things that are just like what they will be doing when they graduate. We want them to call us, to email us, to message us later after they've left the school and say, thank you so much, Professor. What you taught us in this class was exactly what I experienced in the newsroom, or what I experienced in the laboratory, or what I experienced in the office. And that is authentic work. So that's enough about learning activities. I hope this was helpful. Again, this is Professor D, and I will see you soon. Bye-bye.